All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rise Above Justice Movement, the podcast. My name is Zachary Mallory, and I am the host and the founder of the Rise Above Justice Movement and the Rise Above Justice Movement, the podcast. All right. So today is another episode of our candidate series. This is number three. So previously, we interviewed Sparky in California, we interviewed Chris in California, and now we're jumping over to New Jersey. New Jersey Congressional District 6. Katie, welcome to the podcast.
Well, hello, hello. Hi, Zachary. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So it's
Yeah,
so good to sit down. We've been following each other on social media for a
yeah.
little while now, not a whole lot of the time, but I've heard your name a lot. And I'm so excited. It is an absolute honor to sit down and talk to you, go over your platform, go over your
Yeah.
priorities. But before we jump into that, let's
Mhm.
jump into and introduce yourself, walk us
Yeah.
through, childhood, previous community organizing, community involvement, and just give us like the Cliff Notes version of who Katie is, because I believe that people can't fit into a box, and
Yeah. We shouldn't fit in a box.
I there's a lot more to us. So let's talk
Yeah.
about the human side, and then we'll dive into policy.
Absolutely. Yeah. My name's Katie Bansil, running in New Jersey 6th District, my beloved Middlesex and Monmouth counties. And I'm an immigrant. I'm a very proud immigrant. My father moved here from the Philippines when I was very young. 8 years old. And then my mom and I followed years later. And everyone that leaves their home country is only out for one thing, and it's to bring a better life to your family and just, provide the best for your family. And when my mom and I followed, we were stuck in the middle of recession. And it's this picture in your head that I will never forget. It's watching them work multiple jobs and switch careers just to afford housing and healthcare. And that stayed with me in the middle of trying to navigate this country's super broken immigration system. And yeah, politics was never part of my plan. But then Donald Trump started attacking my community, started attacking who I am, everything that I stand for. And then ICE came after my community, and that's like a big no, right? And in the middle of a nationwide affordability crisis, our elected officials sided with APAC and their billionaire friends and donors over their constituents. They say we have no money for universal health care, for universal child care, a living wage, paid family leave. And then they turn around and use billions of dollars, our own tax dollars, on unjust, unprovoked foreign wars. It's like a big no to me. And the reason, and the very main reason I'm running for Congress is because I believe that every American, whether you're born here or abroad, deserves a shot at a better and decent life. And there's so much about me that I want to say and talk about, but I think being part of the immigrant community has really shaped who I am and has taught me a lot about, resilience and fighting for every right to exist and every right to just do what you love and to be with your family. And I want to share a really cool story. I'm part of this immigrant rights group, which is called Resistencia en Acción in New Jersey. For to those that are not familiar, it's um, it's basically they're a big part of the rapid response team in New Jersey. Their main operations actually in Princeton, and they're the ones that go to like ICE raids and they help families, get in contact with their families that are getting detained. So it's a very powerful and important group. And last month, I participated in this satirical play about this marriage choice between the police departments and ICE, and I played the bride, da, 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 which was the ICE agent, complete with a white dress, bouquet, the whole shebang, and I had a bulletproof vest that said ICE. And as I was walking with my partner that was playing the groom, as we were walking out of the office to the church, I saw this man outside freaking out, right? Like I never thought in my lifetime that three letters ICE would bring so much fear. And this guy was ready to like pick up the phone and report us. And we had to like tell him, "Hey, no, no, just either we're just we're just playing around." And it was so much fun. I mean, not what we were doing it for, but it was so much fun to kind of bring this creativity as we organize for justice. And the organizing part of my life, started when AOC first ran in 2018. So that was like a big political canvassing that I first experienced. Like to get this woman so inspiring and motivating as AOC, and to get her onto a platform of Congress, it was very, very dear to me. And then it went on, and I jumped into the Kamala Harris presidential campaign in 24, and then the Jersey City election just recently that happened, and of course the gubernatorial one with Mikey Sherrill. And I think it's important for your listeners that are curious about organizing, but are not quite sure how to get started, to understand why I did it and how fun it is to meet people who share your values and to work to make a difference. And for me, I was looking for a safe space. I was looking for somewhere where I could just breathe and belong. And organizing kind of brings that out, right? So that was like a long-winded thing about me, but that's basically who I am, like the first layer of my
Mhm.
onion. So I'll stop there and take
And there,
and you know.
yeah, and there's a lot more to you because
Yeah,
I deeply enjoy reading your platform,
I
and
love that.
it
Thank
brings
you.
me a lot of hope because, and I think that's honestly what a lot of people need right now. They need to see that there is a path forward out of corruption, out of billionaires, out of
Yeah.
taking money and sending it abroad and elsewhere,
Hmm.
and then starting all these like international conflicts. But
Yeah.
thinking about that, on your platform, you talk about universal health care. And
Hmm.
you support a universal healthcare system that guarantees coverage for everyone while allowing people to keep trusted providers. That means allowing
Hmm.
Medicare to negotiate drug prices, capping saving medications, and ending surprise billing once and for all. So, speaking of surprise billing, without
Hmm.
my mom got sick with COVID a couple years ago, and
Hmm.
at that time, luckily, like a couple years before that, the voters in the state of Missouri passed Medicaid expansion.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's still not obviously not the greatest
Hmm.
system. There's still a lot of corruption in it, etc. However, it did pay her $100,000 hospital bill. Whenever we saw it was $100,000 hospital bill for a week stay in a hospital,
Hmm.
you're doing all these medications, you're running all these
Yeah.
tests because she had two blood clots in her lungs. And
Hmm.
then, fast forward, she was diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer last year. And
I'm so sorry.
luckily, luckily, she just did a PET scan earlier, I think in February or March, and it's working. So her cancer is gone. Um,
Yay.
so she's kicking cancer's ass. But my mom is also a survivor. She's a survivor of domestic violence.
I'm so
And
sorry.
whenever we think about healthcare, if we think about survivor voices in this as
Hmm.
well, but we also think
Hmm.
about reproductive access. We talk about reproductive rights. We talk about, mental health services and addiction
Hmm.
treatment and
Hmm.
maternal health. Specifically, Black maternal health is a big thing that I like to
Right.
really hit on. And
Hmm.
we'll jump into that here in just a second. But what does a healthcare that works for the people look like in a capitalistic trickle down economic society? But that was a whole like mouthful there. But thinking about healthcare in the current state,
Hmm.
obviously there's a lot that needs to change. So run me
Right.
through your healthcare plans that you want to see implemented.
Absolutely. First of all, I'm happy to hear that your mom is doing well and better. So that's very good. Cancer is, I it's the toughest thing anyone could ever face. So
Early detection
it's a big deal.
is critical.
Especially, there's so much I could say because as a woman, like there's so much that goes on that could be prevented early if we have the prevention tools, right? Unfortunately, not every early stage prevention screenings are provided for free for everyone. So that's a whole different story. But universal healthcare to me is not just a platform that I just say to say it, it's very personal, right? And my father had a triple bypass during the pandemic, and I was very thankful that my mother had a really good insurance. She works for kind of a government, not a for-profit space. She works for a senior living facility that has good insurance. But when we heard that my dad needed triple bypass, the first thing that came to my mind was I will do whatever it takes to save my father's life. But it would have been so tough if I wouldn't be able to afford it. Like, what would that look like if I went to the hospital? They have to treat you no matter what, right? It's the law. No matter what, they have to treat you. But also, you will live without medical debt, right? And then it will be hard to come back from that. Universal healthcare, or a beautiful healthcare in my eyes, would be I should be able to get the same treatment everywhere for the same price. I should be able to pick whoever I want to see with no restrictions. I should be able to go to a town center where someone could give me what I need right away. We should have multiple clinics that's open for everyone. Telehealth shouldn't be a one-time thing. It should be offered to everyone. We should have baby clinics for everywhere in the state or in the country, because a lot of the times, Zachary, it's not even getting health care. It's how will I get the healthcare when it's nowhere near me? So, especially in my district where transportation is not as great. So, you really have to find a way to get to a hospital or to get to a doctor. And if we offer telehealth services for free everywhere, that would cut that cost down. That would cut that fear of not being able to see a doctor. I would love a single payer structure. Clearly, the for-profit insurance system is not working and it's benefiting no one, right? It's so disheartening to get to a doctor and the doctor tells you, I need to run some tests. Unfortunately, we can run these tests until I get approval from the insurance. Why do I need to go through that referral process? Why do I need to go through a screening process? And mind you, the people sitting behind those doors in the insurance companies, they're not really medical people. They're just a regular person that's going through kind of like a list of, it's like a checklist. Like, yeah, this person, fits this requirement. And it's horrible. It's horrible to live with that fear in your heart and in your life, to like not be able to see a doctor, seek care because you're so scared of the number and the dollar signs that would follow. I don't i don't think we should give these big corporations and these big pharma companies the right and the ability to dictate how much you should pay or how much you should value your life. And I think that's what it is in a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly. And thinking about that, and like you said, dollar signs, because that's exactly what they see whenever
Yeah.
you go in and seek care. They see a dollar sign on you. You're like a walking dollar sign as soon as you walk into the ER or you walk into that
Hmm.
clinic. And they're like, that's why they scan like literally every single thing and rack the damn bill up. But it's like, holy crap. But it also goes further than just that because, and I never talk about people that are within the systems, I talk about the system itself because the system is
Hmm.
beyond repair, right? We need this whole like revamp of like the entire system. It's kind of like the private prison. It's also like
Right.
the mental health care system. It's also like
Yeah.
the juvenile justice and criminal justice, which we'll jump into here in just a bit
Hmm.
whenever we talk about DHS and illegal detaining and such. But we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But I want to kind of shift a little bit and talk about what you're seeing in your community in regards to ICE presence. And
Ah.
I know you got a lot to say about this. I can already envision it in my head. I know there's a lot because there is a lot going on. But
Yeah.
full disclosure, I used to live in Minneapolis, and
Mhm.
where Alex Preddy was murdered by a federal agent, I frequented that donut shop. That
Oh,
if you watch the video, which
yeah.
anybody out there, if you do watch this video, it is horrific. Me and my mom watched it practically at the same time, and it is a deeply alarming video. So
Yeah.
huge trigger warning on that. But there was a donut shop that's right behind there. It's called Glam Doll Donuts. It's right in the heart of Minneapolis, and it's a beautiful little like donut shop that's right there. I used to frequent there a lot. I met one of my friends that was running for office there, and I fell in love with it ever since. And I went back and I got it a couple times. I wasn't like a frequent, by what
Mhm.
they feel like a frequent, but I was there a couple times and I've always loved the atmosphere, and I knew exactly where that is. I stood in that exact same spot. Like it just brings that back, and it brings so much like grief and anger. And I think back to my time in Minneapolis. I turned 21 backstage at a drag show in downtown Minneapolis. I don't remember it, but they always say if you do your 21st right, you don't remember it. Well, I definitely don't
Yeah.
remember it. All I remember is just a bunch of drag queens and a bunch of wigs flying and a bunch of music and performing, and then there was bubbles. Like that's all I remember.
And
Uh,
donuts.
yeah, and obviously donuts, yes, but that's all I remember. But anyway,
Mhm.
thinking about ICE and the terrorizing of our communities, undermining trust in the institutions, and I'm reading directly off your website because this is a really
Mhm.
critical spot and a
Yeah.
really critical piece of your platform.
Mhm.
So let's talk about um, what you're seeing in your communities, and then also tell me, are
Mhm.
you for a restructure, abolish, or keep? So let's run through this.
Oh yeah, for sure. Also, sorry if you guys start hearing me sniffling because it's allergy season and it's bad this year. So it's here. It's very present in my community. It's very, very scary. It's very, very terrible. Uh Resistencia does a really good job at with telling people and informing people of what's happening and the things that you can do and what Delaney Hall is like and how you could visit the people that are in Delaney Hall. And it's very disheartening to see that we are a country that's okay tearing families apart. Like that's so not okay. And we had a couple of raids in the district, and Resistencia was there, and Dyer and all these other immigrant groups are there. They were there to help people get out of that situation. But I should not be anywhere near that. And New Jersey's taking, proud of my state, to take the tiny baby steps that they could in creating these barriers to protect the immigrant communities. And we could do much better, but it's a start. It's a start, right? But they're there, and they raided a Home Depot one time, and it was very annoying. And annoying, I use the word annoying because they know they shouldn't do it. It's kind of like when you tell a kid no and they don't know no means no and they still do it. And I do not think you can restructure, you can defund, or you can reform ICE. We need to abolish it. And I've said this since day one. The only solution is to abolish ICE. Now, I want to be clear, real quick, Zach. I want to be clear what I mean when I say we must abolish ICE, because I don't think people have been talking about it and much more about what it actually means. Because some people still get confused when they hear abolish ICE, they think, oh my God, we're just gonna forget about immigration process. That's not it at all. We're not talking about eliminating some legacy agency here. I'm 34, about to be 35, and I'm 15 years older than ICE. So if you're 23 or older, you've been around longer than ICE. So Republicans and Democrats, both sides of the aisle, created this thing the same month the US launched the war in Iraq, right? It was designed as a tool of xenophobia and repression, and it is being used as a tool for that very specific reason. And any Democrat, including my opponent, Representative Pallone, who voted to fund ICE in the past only to now throw their hands up in the air and say, well, I had no idea what it would become under Trump, is 100% lying to you. They knew what ICE was going to be, and they kept it going. Don't believe them. I believe we should hold our elected officials to the highest possible standard. And that means requiring that they demonstrate the foresight to oversee a public institution like ICE, including every law enforcement agency, ensuring as at the very minimum, a first priority that they will not be used against innocent people. I believe in a very humane immigration process. I really want to fight for a clear pathway to citizenship. Every person that you ask that enters this country, they want to be here. They want they want to be here legally. They want your help. They need your help to understand what it would take or how they could be here legally, right? We are a nation founded by immigrants. we have to live by that. And it's, to be honest, it costs so much money to get an application to be here legally, right? I think right now it's 900, if anything, just a little under $1,000 to get an application to be a permanent resident. Now that's rent for some people. It shouldn't cost that much. We should subsidize that, especially for low income families that are trying to restart a life coming from war torn countries, or as refugees. It's very hard to kind of require them to pull up all their eggs in one basket and then forget all the other necessities just to be here permanently. We should help them. We should be a loving and welcoming country, and there's a human element to half of these things that we do. But yes, ISIS is very present and I do not like it, but I've been saying it since day one. We must abolish it. Anyone that tells you otherwise is wrong. You can absolutely never restructure such a broken, terrorizing agency.
I remember last year
Hmm.
whenever New York Mayor Ross Baraka was arrested
Yeah.
for quote unquote trespassing at the Delaney Hall. I know that he sued
Hmm.
the U.S. Attorney for New Jersey and Homeland Security
Hmm.
agents because it was a false arrest and it was a malicious prosecution. You have this detention center and they do have oversight. And,
Hmm.
I remember this. I remember watching the video of this and it was horrific, and
Yeah.
I've heard him speak quite a few times. He always speaks right from the heart,
Yeah.
and he does a good job at it. But
Yeah. And let me just add one real
hmm?
quick thing. The ironic thing about Delaney Hall is that I visited it a couple times, and they're so strict about so many things there. It's actually really ironic. You have to dress a certain way. This is a very formal agency. This is government run. You can't do this, you can't do that. Yet when you walk in there and you hear about how these people are getting treated, it's the opposite of that. It's so bad.
And not to
It's so
mention the fact he also attended with three Congress members. They invited him. It's not like he was attending or going just by himself. He went with
Yeah.
three other Congress members, LaMonica McIver, Bonnie Watson Coleman, and Rob
Yeah.
Menendez.
Hmm.
Um, but I remember watching this unfold, and I have friends that live in New Jersey, but I remember watching this unfold and just remember just literally everything about this. And this was on May 9th. So, we're coming up on a year already
Yeah.
this took place. But I do remember it very vividly. And it was horrific. It was a horrific watch.
Yeah.
But you're right. I've always been told that you can't fix something that's not broken. But what if
Yeah.
it is broken? How do we fix it? And that's one of those things, right?
Yeah. It really is.
Um, so kind of shifting gears a little bit and
Hmm.
talking about the PRO Act.
Hmm.
So, like your website says, the Democratic Party used to be the party of labor. If you pass the PRO Act, it would penalize corporations and bosses who violate workers' rights to organize rights, ban captive audience meetings, and protect the right to strike and arbitrate contracts.
Hmm.
This is all about building the trust with the unions
Yeah.
and doing that pro-worker economy, getting money out of politics. Obviously, right now we see a lot of corporate PACs, we see a lot of APAC, we see a lot, the pro-Israel lobby, etc.,
Hmm.
influencing a lot of the decisions in Congress.
Hmm.
So let's tie these two things together. So
Yeah.
because in reality they do go directly together because it's like if we have an economy that's
Hmm.
pro-worker, we can also get the money out of politics. It literally like goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the PRO Act and then let's jump in and talk about money in politics and the influence that you see in American politics and what you see money doing.
No, absolutely. I'm big on protecting the working class and the working families. I think as a Democratic Party, we must reclaim our identity as that very party of the working class and stand in stand firm in our belief in the equal application of human rights. And we are slowly forgetting that. My mom is a union worker. She's part of the union, and so is my wife. My wife, she's a nurse, and she's also part of her union. And they're not fighting for crazy things out there. These unions are not fighting for crazy things. They're fighting for equal rights. They're fighting for a living wage. They're fighting for the right to be able to take vacation without worry. They're fighting for just general things that you think is so normal. Yet it's so hard for these corporations to fathom that someone would want a living wage. New Jersey, I'm very proud that was able to pass a $15.92 minimum wage. It's in January, it rolled over, and it's very nice to know that we are taking a step towards the right direction here. But even just the idea of you striking against the place you work at, the place you work for, it's such a sad truth, right? Because a lot of the people, when they go on strike, they forfeit their income, and you forfeit up the food on the table. But you come to this decision of, hey, I'm going to pick it. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to go against my my employer because you really need to, because you have no other choice. Because how else are they going to listen to you? We have to strengthen that relationship, the the relationship between the people working for you and the people that are paying you, right? And some of these people, they're making billions of dollars, right? If someone asks you for a living wage, you're not going to die. You're not going to go bankrupt. It's very, very tough. And the fact that we think they don't have the right to organize, they don't have the right to ask for the things that they need, they don't have the right to go out there and go against you fighting for a basic human right. It's absurd to me. They should absolutely be able to do so. And especially, I just want to talk real quick about um, the unions of the nurses, because it happened in the district. Robert Wood Johnson, they went on strike for a long time because they were not getting paid. And they weren't, and there's no safe staffing there. They were understaffed. And in a place where it's between life and death, and it's either you go in this place or you're either going to die or you're going to live, we have to treat the people that work there with respect and dignity and give them what they need to be able to work their shifts the right way and better, right? Imagine being a nurse standing on your feet for 14, 15 hours, right? Because it's never really a true 12-hour shift. And you're telling me I don't want to pay you for your hours and your hard work. It's very crazy. And they are still fighting for that. And my wife, she probably is one of the most hardworking people I know. And she has been very vocal about that too. Like, the nurses deserve better, and these unions deserve better. These workers deserve better. The railroad workers deserve better. Imagine during the pandemic, they weren't allowed to take a sick leave because you're not going to get paid going like on a sick leave because you're understaffed. Well, that's your problem. You're doing this to yourself. I'm talking about the corporations, and you're understaffing your own company. You should fix that, right? It's you have the authority to provide someone a better life. You do it. It's not really. I don't believe in a billionaire status. I don't think anyone should be a billionaire, let alone a millionaire. It's it's so sickening to me that you will choose to let people suffer than just give them what they need, right? Or like than just you losing a couple zeros after your net worth. Which brings me to money in politics, which is so big. It happens in this very district that I'm running in, right? Frank Malone, the representative that's been in this district for 19 terms, which is rounding out to 40 years by the time he finishes the term, he takes a lot of money from big pharma companies and big telecommunication companies. And you would think, for someone who's fighting for Medicare for all, for fighting for cheaper medications, for fighting for privacy laws, that they wouldn't take a single dime from these lobbying groups, but he's taking money from them. So that loyalty is kind of blurry, right? Are you really representing your constituents, or are you representing these people that are giving you thousands of dollars? We need to get money out of politics. We need to stop the big money influence. And it's very apparent in this country because you would see how much apex drops on races that they don't want to lose. Millions and millions of dollars are getting spent on campaigns, on smear campaigns against progressive candidates just because they're so scared to lose influence over that state. It shouldn't be that case. It really shouldn't be. I believe in a very structured public campaign financing where everything that you do is funded and it's just equal across the board. And you should never be allowed to take any money from any corporations. You should never be allowed to take money from any lobbying group because then your loyalty will keep going to those dollar signs, to those people that are giving you money, and you're going to stop representing your district the right way.
Mhm.
We really need to stop this whole money runs the world thing. It's not right. It really isn't.
Whenever we think about the New Jersey congressional delegation,
Yeah.
per like all the FEC filings and track APAC, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
Cory Booker, 5 million from the APAC lobby. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Kim, over 2 million. Donald Norcross, 804,000. Jeff
Yeah.
Van Drew, 429,000. Frank Pallone,
Mm-hmm.
$845,000 spent by pro-Israel lobby groups and their donors, PACs, lobby donors, 845,000. Josh Gottheimer, 6 million.
6 million.
Chris
Yeah.
Smith, 571,000. Herb
Mm-hmm.
Conaway, 74,000.
Mm-hmm.
Tom King, I think is how you say his last name.
Tom
The
Kane. Yeah.
7,
7.
2 million. Rob Menendez, 1 million.
one
Nelly Poole,
million. Mm-hmm.
156,000. Bonnie Watson Coleman, zero,
0.
which is good.
Dignity.
It's really good. Good to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there's another really good candidate that's running in District 12, Adam,
Amalia.
and he is a badass human being,
He
and it's another one that
is.
we collaborate with.
Yeah.
Because Tammy Duckworth is a veteran, and
Mm-hmm.
Adam is the doctor that saved Tammy's life in Iraq.
Yeah. And then Gaza.
It is
Mm-hmm.
a yes, and it is a beautiful story,
Yeah.
and I thoroughly enjoy sitting down. He'll be coming on the podcast later on.
Love
Um,
that.
so it's going to be a deep, impactful conversation, and
Mhm.
I want to ask you. So there's
Yeah.
APAC, and then there's also
Mhm.
like J Street and a
Yeah.
couple others. And there was a lot of
Mhm.
conversation around another candidate in New Jersey that got the J Street endorsement.
Mejia. Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to kind of know like what your thoughts are on that because J Street has shifted their position
Mm.
whenever it comes to the genocide in Gaza.
Right.
They have shifted a little bit. They do call it a
Yeah.
genocide, and they
Yeah.
are against, trying to think of the best way to phrase it, but it's still a pro-Israel lobby. It really is.
Right.
But
It's
I
mhm.
guess in if you compare it to APAC, I guess it's like the
The
quote
diet.
unquote like it's the diet APAC. Oh my god,
It's like APAC light.
yeah. And but whenever we think about the money in politics, and
Mm-hmm.
whenever we think about this, it kind of raises a couple flags, right?
Yeah.
And thinking about
Mm-hmm.
that, thinking about the other candidates that are running across the state of New Jersey,
Uh-huh.
it does kind of shed a little bit of light that a lot of these incumbents have challengers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about more of money in politics, what else do you see? Because there's also oil packs.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh-huh.
there's a really quick solution, and I guess it necessarily isn't like a really quick solution, but Citizens United.
Mm-hmm.
Are you for or against abolishing Citizens United? And
We
and why?
get money out of politics.
Because it literally goes hand in hand.
It does. Like, you know what? I really love that you brought up the candidates across New Jersey because I want to tell you why we need to end this money in politics situation. A lot of those incumbents were not contested for a long time, and there are a lot of them that are breezing through the primary straight to the general because they're unopposed. It's for the same exact reason that you just mentioned. People see how much APAC have spent on them, and it's so scary to go against someone with a three, four, $1 million war chest. It's insane. Citizens United had created this space of just dark money hovering everyone's lives. Right. And it's what are we doing here? Right? It's not even just like stopping the progressive people into getting into politics. It's stopping anything from happening in the country, period. That's what it is. And it's a lot of the J Street conversation had been so controversial too, because are they really shifting or are they kind of mellowing? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, let's stop sending money to Israel. But however, they still can sell or buy weapons. Like, it's like, to me, what? Like, I don't think anyone should be taking any money from any foreign, what, however you say it, it's foreign group lobbying. You know what I mean? So, Zachary, I want to live in a world where there's zero money in politics in any shape or form. Campaigning, after you campaign, as an elected official, we shouldn't even have these bad lobbying groups. I don't know if there's any good lobbying groups. We shouldn't have corporate PACs. I think we should get rid of it, especially the super PACs. And they're getting smarter. They're getting smarter with these PAC loopholes. We need it. We need to get rid of any form of money in politics.
You know,
Full stop.
you said a key thing because thinking about the Illinois primary election and thinking about it, there was, kind of along the same lines that there was like these super PACs that are still like APAC aligned, that are still, it's like APAC has PACs, right? Um, there was a lot of those influences in that election specifically. And, Kat Abou-Ghazaleh ran a very, very progressive campaign. She was using like campaign funds to feed people, right? And like,
Yeah.
I think that's incredible. And there's nothing illegal about that. I think it's definitely, but, she got attacked by the establishment. And Daniel Biss is the establishment. And
Mm-hmm.
he was practically begging for the APAC endorsement. And I was sitting here like, this is pathetic. This is
It
what
is. It
money in
is.
politics has really done to these elected officials. But my question to you is, and I asked, some of the other candidates that I'll be interviewing, I'm asking this exact same question, is everybody has a platform that they run on, right?
Yeah.
Now, what happens a lot of the time is people get elected and those platforms, it's like it doesn't even matter anymore. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm gonna fight for Citizens United and or
Yeah.
fight back against Citizens United. But if they get into Congress or they get into office, not even just Congress, and then that platform just goes out the window because then they don't even give a damn about it. So my
Right.
question to you is you have a platform.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to stay true to what you believe in? And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying this isn't like a direct, like attack on you or whatever, but I'm just saying, for the people that are listening,
Mm-hmm.
we're recording, so obviously it's going to be recorded. So that way, if you go in
Forever.
there and be like, you know what, Katie, you told me that you were going to, I'm not going to do
It's
that.
gonna happen. It's gonna
I
happen.
might, but I might do that. I've been known to hold people accountable, but
You should. You should.
just out of curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
I know you've seen this. Cory Booker puts up like this big front saying, oh yeah, I give a damn about this, but then turns around and goes and votes for something completely off the freaking wall.
Right.
And now he's
Mm-hmm.
on a book tour. Um, whenever your constituents are literally calling your
Dying.
office and literally dying, and you're not responding to them. So Cory Booker is the prime example of why I'm saying this. And then also
Yeah,
thinking about like a Tulsi Gabbard. She went in and she did like this whole thing, and then she was like, "Oh,
I'm out.
I'm
Yeah,
out," right? And
yeah.
she literally failed her constituents.
Hmm.
And everybody had high hopes for her. I kind of liked her, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah, this is a woman. She's a badass.
she was pretty strong. Yeah.
She's gonna do this, and then she turns around and just fuck everybody, right?
It's so
But
bad. Yeah.
my question to you is, I know you've seen this a lot of times, and a lot of that
Hmm.
is the influence of money in politics. It is.
Yeah.
Um, John Fetterman is another example. But
Uh-huh.
thinking about that,
Hmm.
what's your reaction to that?
Uh, I'll start off by saying this is not just a platform to me. This is my life, right? It's a lived truth. It's a lived experience, and this is what my family's still going through. So when I say these things like universal health care, I want a living wage, and I want universal childcare, so people wouldn't have to beg their parents to take care of their kids 500 miles away, because it's a reality that I've lived through. And I don't think I could see myself. Let me backtrack, because it's in the recording. I'm not saying I don't think. I know that I can't go back on my word. It's just not who I am. And I'll give you a good example. My background's actually in finance. I'm a really good negotiator. And I've lived my career, across the floor and across the table from powerful people, and I've seen money, go left and right across the table, thrown all over the place and all over the room. It never influenced me one bit. I never said, let me do the dirty work just so we could all be rich. Right. And it's so sickening to me. That's why I left that world. I've actually gone through my life where I would say no to a promotion because I know what that would mean. I would say no to a job because I know what that would mean. I would never exchange my morals for money. It's just not who I am. I wasn't raised like that. I was raised by very loving parents, and coming from a country where everything is so corrupt and everything's so messed up. And I watched my parents live through that, and they had to get me out of that. It's so bad, and it's just so disloyal and so not true to my parents, who fought so hard to get me out of a corrupt country, to just do the same here. That would be just a disservice to my parents, who tried so hard to give me a wonderful life here. And it's very true, because it's very recent now, right? A lot of the progressive people that have supported that candidate who took the J Street endorsement, they felt some sort of resentment. They felt very betrayed because it was so quick, right? They think you were going to win the seat anyway. You didn't need to go that route. And I don't think I would have the heart. Again, I don't, it's not that I don't think, I know I don't have the heart to betray people like that in any way of how you see the word betrayal. It's you, it's like a job. If someone hired you to do a job, you do it and you do it right. You don't do it and then half-ass it, and then someone is going to be paying you under the table to do them favors. It's just not how life should be. And I don't have the moral code to do that. So that's just what I'm going to say. And you know what? You can keep this forever. And if elected to Congress, I give you the full authority to go to my office through my chief of staff and yell at me if I ever do something wrong. We have to be accountable, and you should always hold your elected official accountable to anything that they do and anything that they say that goes against what they promised you. It's yeah, no. I hate corruption. I hate people that don't do as they say. So I don't want to be that person. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And I absolutely will.
You should.
Once you're elected, I will be in Washington, D.C., straight from here in Kansas, and I'll be like, Katie.
Remember that time when
And I can just play this podcast episode. Be like, so you remember whenever you said
this
remember
time
whenever you
stamp?
said that you were against this? Well, guess what? But I
No.
don't suspect that happening. I don't. And
No.
I
Mm-mm.
think a lot of people run for office just to run for office, just to get a paycheck, right? It's kind of like the same
Yeah.
way that any job is. People just get a job just for money. I mean, yeah, obviously that's like you need money in order to live in a capitalist society.
Yes,
Let's be real.
unfortunately, yeah.
But at the same time, people lose focus of why running for office actually does matter because what you do not only impacts your constituents, but it impacts the entire country. I mean, like literally, our lives are literally in Congress's hands. Like at any moment,
Yes.
they
Yes.
can do something that completely fucks everything up, and it can happen, and it has
Yes.
happened.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I always say that if your life does not depend on a Supreme Court decision, get the fuck out of my DMs, get the fuck out of my comments because it's so wild. Because at
It's
any moment, with a stroke of a pen, they can take away my mom's Medicaid.
on 100%.
Like
100%.
it is so that, and it should not be like that. Healthcare
No,
is a human right.
it
Reproductive
is.
rights are human rights. LGBTQ rights and trans people exist and always will.
Yeah.
There's an update about the New Jersey election, and it actually just came.
They closed. The polls are closed.
Are you ready?
Say it. Did we win?
She won. She won.
Is it a landslide? It's been 10 minutes.
I don't know. I don't know yet. I didn't look at the numbers. But okay, y'all, this is a very real, like, in the moment type of thing. So pulling up
Yeah.
Associated Press, Katie, hang with me just for a second. She won her election.
Yeah.
And give me one second. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Hang tight,
Yeah.
everybody. This is really interesting to say the least.
Is it,
Um,
did they call it?
I'll edit a little part of this out. Don't worry.
Oh, it's okay. You don't have to.
Let
It
me
could be, we can be in
see.
the moment together.
Um, okay, so looking at this right now,
My heart.
looking at this, come on. Why can I not? Why do they make this so freaking difficult to find election results? I don't understand.
Because that's just they want everything. Oh my God, that's a big freaking lead. There's
Because
no
that
way.
because it was today. I forgot about that. The special election was today to fill Mikey Cheryl's seat. Oh shit.
Um,
69.2%.
25% counted, but I think this is mostly I think they started counting
Wow.
the early, right? Ah,
All right. So this is a very in the moment type of thing that usually doesn't
I
happen on this podcast, but
love it.
I was really excited to see that because it just came across. That's really good, and I'm really excited
Yeah,
about it. Now let's see if she actually holds true to her
she should.
platform, and let's hold her accountable as well. But congratulations to her.
Yeah,
Um, that's a big victory.
it is.
So
It is.
that's really good to hear. Um, but anyway, is there any last moment things that you wanted to share with anybody who might be listening? And how can people contribute to your campaign and uplift the work that you are doing as you continue to campaign and run for Congress?
No, yeah, absolutely. I just want to, since we're talking about Mejia, I want us to just take a moment to talk about why it's deeply important for progressive voices to be running at all levels, right? Because I don't think we had time to talk about that, but I think it's so important, especially in a world where we need progressives so desperately. Here in New Jersey, progressives across the state were so inspired by the recent elections in Jersey City with Joel Brooks and Jake Efros winning seats on the city council. Of course, the victory of Mayor Solomon in that same city, whose campaign I supported, and now Mejia winning the seat. It's our voices are finally getting out there and it's getting heard. And my message to progressives thinking about running for any office from school board to the US Senate is to become who you are. And we've been talking about this whole time. Stay true to who you are. Don't forget your values, don't forget your ideals. Politics can feel so personal, and to me, it really is. And you have your background, your experience, your strong beliefs, your ideas. But instead of thinking about those things as your own characteristics, as your own, Think about them as reflections of your community's needs, your district's needs, your school's needs, right? Your family. Because at the end of the day, when you represent a community, that's your family. Whatever happens to that family, that's on you. So if you're an immigrant like myself, or someone who's concerned about immigrant rights, someone who's very concerned about the LGBTQ plus community like myself, someone who's concerned and worried about their aging parents like myself, someone who's I'm naming everyone, Zachary, someone who's concerned about the first time mothers, the first time parents, and how they're gonna afford childcare. How are they gonna go back to the workforce because it's so expensive to survive? Or know someone who's like that and who share the same concerns, join an organization like Resistencia en Acción, please do, or any org that speaks to you. It goes a long way, and see what kind of change you can make. If you're a progressive, join Progressive Victory for or any other orgs that you love, but Progressive Victory is very dear and near to my heart. You probably have spoken to them. They're very passionate and they're go-getters, and they fight for everyone and the progressive ideals. And I think you'll surprise yourself when you learn that these things could happen, and you'll surprise yourself even more of what you actually are capable of, because I surprised myself, and I'm still surprising myself. This campaign, Zachary, has turned me into someone a lot stronger than I thought I could ever be. And my campaign staff and everyone that has supported me from day one, and the people that are just starting to support me, they mean the world to me. This campaign literally wouldn't be able to function without every support that I have gotten. And it's so important at a time like what we are living through now to come together, because the sense of community is stronger than any fascist group out there. We are a lot stronger than we give ourselves credit for. And of course, a special thank you to people like you, to platforms like you that actually highlight these voices that otherwise wouldn't have been highlighted. So really, I appreciate you taking the time to have me on your podcast, to
Mhm.
yap around. And it means the world, because we're not only trying to make a difference, we're trying to help people see that we could make a difference, that that difference would actually happen. And it starts at home, to be honest, like believing that this could happen, and then going out there and organizing and canvassing for campaigns like my campaign, because every little thing that you do will eventually, it's like a little, pebble, eventually it'll turn into this big thing of jar, and it could break glass, it could break anything, it could break a wall, and eventually we'll live in a place that we're meant to live in, and the life that we deserve. So if you have time, and if you love what we're doing, go to katiebansil.com, support us, canvas, phone bank, chat with me. I love hearing from people and hearing their ideas. And let's turn this country into the country that it used to be, where love will prosper and love wins. So I think that's my parting words to you. And I hope you don't get bad allergies this season, but that might not be, that's something that I really cannot promise though. It's, yeah.
Because y'all, climate change is freaking real. Let me just tell you.
Apparently it's apparently it is real. Knock knock, because apparently we've been lied to about climate change. Shocker,
Absolutely.
shocker. But yeah,
All
this has
right,
been
Katie, thank you
so
so
awesome.
much for coming on the podcast. I greatly appreciate you, and
Yeah.
I look forward to continuing to watch you campaign. When's
Yeah.
your primary?
June 2nd, I forgot to say that. June
Yeah,
2nd, the
perfect.
primary is June 2nd, and early voting starts May 26th, which is not far away. So we need all this, the help and support, and I would love to do this with you. And let's win this. And I just want to say, if I win in June and then November, I will be the very first immigrant woman to ever represent the state. So it would mean the
Woohoo!
world to me. Yeah. So
And
And yeah,
that's a
and
really big moment. It really is.
yeah, and to be honest, would be the first Democratic woman to do it. There was a woman that technically served the district, but it was when it was in Union, it was merged with Union before they gerrymandered the heck out of it. But she was a Republican, so I would be the first Democratic woman to represent the district if I were to win. So win-win either way. Let's make it happen. Let's make history together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Please take care of
Thank
yourself,
you.
okay?
You too. Thank you.